Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi SOTAH Chav Ches. We are holding on Chav Zayin Amud Beis on the bottom line. The Mishnah began by telling us, just as the Mayim, the Mei SOTAH, the Mayim HaMa'orim, are boidek oisa, Kashem Shamayim boidkin oisa. You have it on top of the Mishnah here, about 8 lines from the top. Kashem Shamayim boidkin oisa, Kach HaMayim boidkin oisai, Shenamar uvo uvo. And then the Mishnah continues. So first of all, right, just like the water affects her, verifies her status, it verifies his status, and it affects him. And then the Mishnah continues. Kishem shasura leba'al, kachasura leboil. Just like the Isha is usher to go back to her husband until she drinks. Kini v'stiri triggers an isser to her husband. Kach asura leboil. Likewise, she's usher to the boil, the other man, the suspect. Shenemar nitma v'nitma, divi Rabbi Akiva. And then the Mishnah brings Rabbi's Shita, Rabbi Omer Pa'amim. It says once nitma, again v'nitma, echad l'baal, one for the isser baal, one for the isser boil. Okay, so let's drop back down to the bottom of the last line. Oisai. Oisai laman. The mime is baidik oisa, and also oisai. Her and him. Who's the him? Oisai laman. Ilem lebal. It affects her husband. Baal my avidu. What did he do wrong? Perhaps. The Mishnah means like this. Di isbei avoin bat kilei maya. If the husband is also guilty of an offense, of improper behavior. Rashi on the top line says, Di isbei avon means sheba aleha la'achash nistera. You got involved with his wife as married after the kina v'stira, which of course is also. So is that what the Mishnah means? Just as the water can impact the Isha as a result of her sin, it also goes and hurts the husband who did something wrong. Well, says the Gemara, if that's the case, that he did something wrong with her, the whole water, the whole system wouldn't work. It deactivates the system. It compromises the whole process. If the husband is guilty of impropriety in this manner, since when will the water even work? The water wouldn't even affect her. But Tanya, the Brisa clearly says, based on the pasuk of V'nika ishmi avain, v'yisha yitis avoina, the Isha gets the consequence only when the Ish, her husband, is also clean of any guilt. When her husband did nothing wrong, then the mayim is baidik the Isha. But if the man is not cleansed of any sin, meaning he is guilty as well to some extent, the water doesn't affect his wife at all. So you can't say that the water kills her and the husband because of what he did. Well, if he's guilty, then it won't be active at all. It won't work. So what then does the Mishnah mean when it says, just as the water is baidik oisa, it's also baidik oisai. Ve'elul boil. Oisai is going on that man, the boil. If in fact it was something improper between the Isha and the boil, drinking of this water affects her and the boil as well. He also goes through the same consequence. Says the Gemara, well, listen to the Tani Seif. If the Oisai is going on the boil, say it clearly, like in the next part of the Mishnah, where we mentioned boil by name. Kashem shasur leba'al. Right? When we speak about the Isser, we say just as she's usher to the Baal, kachasur leboil, the Isser extends to the boil as well. So why don't we use the word boil clearly in the beginning of the Mishnah? Lo'ilon leboil certainly can be referring to the boil. The difference in language is because V'reisha in the first part of the Mishnah, I did the Tana Oisa, Tana Oisa. We use, matching parallel language. Because we were speaking about the water being baidik oisa, so we say oisai in reference to the boil. Oisa and oisai. Seifa, the next part. I did the Tana Baal, when we speak about the Isser to the Baal, and then when we move over to the boil, we call them the boil. Baal and boil. It's a parallel term. I did Tana Baal, Tana Boyel. So bottom line, Kashem shamayim bait kinoisa is going on the isha. Kach hamayim bait kinoisa, it also kills the bayil. And that's a chiddush that it's a miraculous, system here. She drinks and he gets killed. Iboilu, here comes the next shaila. Right? How do we know this? That the bayil is affected as well. The Mishnah says, Shenamar ubo ubo. Because if you look at the psukim, you'll find 3 times the word ubo. Once in Pasuk Chav Beis, ubo hamayim. Once in Pasuk Chav Dalad, ubo v'hamayim. And in Pasuk Chav Zayin, ubo v'hamayim hamar and lumar. So the Mishnah tells us, once uvo, another uvo, as teaching us that the mayim is boydek him and her. The question is, what exactly does Rabbi Kiva here mean in the Mishnah? Iboido, bo ubo kamar. Is it the extra vav? So he's focusing on one phrase, uvo. He could have said vo. Uvo, the extra vav, Rabbi Kiva is derish vavin, teaches us that it has a double effect, him and her. Bo u kamar, is it the extra vav? Or is it simply the repetition? U once and u again. Kamar, that's what he's basing the drasha on, not the extra vav, but rather the repetition, the duplication of the word uvo. Tashma, we're going to bring a raya from the Mishnah itself. The next halacha is the iser generated to the baal, to the boyel, kashem shasur lebaal, kach asur leboyel. Just like as there's Issa between her and the Baal, likewise between herself and the Boyel. Shenamar, the Mishnah continues with the pasuk, Nitma v'nitma. Right? Because it says v'nitma. It could have said nitma. The extra vav is teaching us the double Issa, Baal and Boyel. It would seem that we're working with the extra vav. And likewise, by the uva'u, we have the extra vav teaching us that concept as well. V'adayin tibay, but it's still not clear. When the Mishnah says we learn the double isser because of nitma v'nitma, is it nitma v'nitma ka'amar? Is it the extra vav? It could have said nitma, that's one. V'nitma, that's a double isser. Oy nitma v'nitma ka'amar. Or is it because we find the word nitma twice, 3 times in the parsha? So it's not the extra vav, it's the whole word that's duplicated. So we're not sure, again, are we focusing on the vavs or not? Tashma, we're going to bring a raya. Because this was Rabbi Akiva speaking, right? First time of the Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva. Right? He says there's a double effect, bo. Double isser, nitma v'nitma. Then we have Rabbi Shita, Migtani Seifa, Tashma Migtani Seifa. Rabbi Omer, it's from the duplication. The fact that it says it twice. Shnei pa'amim hamur meparsha, v'nitma v'nitma. Why twice? Echad lebal, one is for the isser, back to the husband. Echad lebayil, one is to denote isser between herself and the bayil. So Rabbi is the one that works with the duplication, with the extra word. Mechlal de Rabbi Akiva. Apparently Rabbi Akiva, who is the opposing Shita, right, the first Shita in the Mishnah, who had a different source, right, apparently had a different source than Rabbi. He wasn't simply working with the duplication. Mechlal de Rabbi Akiva vavi kadarish. He was focusing on the extra vav. That's Shita Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva works with vavs. So bottom line is we do have a raya that although Rabbi is basing his drasha on the extra word, on the duplication of the word itself, Rabbi Akiva focuses on the vav. So we have 2 halachas here. First of all, we know that the mayim is baydek the isha and the bayel because it could have said vo, it says uvo, one per person. Next halacha. Until she drinks and verifies her status, she's usher to the baal and to the bayel. Why? Because it says vinitma. It could have said nitma. Why vinitma? A double isser. Hilkach. So as a result of this analysis, we're going to conclude like this. The conclusion is that Rabbi Akiva, according to Shittas Rabbi Akiva, who focuses on vavs, we end up having a total of 6 drashas. Shisha kroi ksivi. We have 6 sources. Because remember, the word uvo is mentioned 3 times. And each one has a vav attached to it. That turns 3 into 6. What are they. Shita kroi ksivi. We have 6 psukim. Rashi explains there are 3 concepts that the Torah is conveying to us. One is called Yediyah, knowledge, that we are meant to know how it works. The Torah is showing us how it works. It's going to explode the person in this fashion, right? The stomach first, and then the lower area. The way the water goes through the system. That's called Yediyah. We should know how it works, and not question. We shouldn't wonder why it's working this way if the Avera was actually done in the reverse order, the lower part of the body first, and then that's the way it works. It goes better than the Yarech. That's called Yediyah. Then comes something called Tzava. Rashi explains that the Torah, the Hashem, is geyser. He commands. He activates this system. He's geyser that the water will affect her in this way. He gives it the power. That's called Tzivui, Tzava. And then comes Asiyah. Asiyah is that Hashem is promising us. Hashem is bimaftiach that the water will indeed act in this manner. So we have Yediyah, knowledge, just knowing how it works. Tzava, how Hashem is activating the water. And 3, Hashem is actually guaranteeing that it would work in this way. That's called Asiyah. So why do we need 6 psukim? Because remember, it affects her and it affects the boil as well. So 3 per person. Chad l'tzava dida, 1 is for the tzava on her side. V'chad l'tzava dida, 1 is for the boil. Chad l'asiyah dida, 1 for the asiyah on her side. V'chad l'asiyah dida, 1 on his side. V'chad l'yediyah dida, 1 for her yediyah. V'chad l'yediyah dida, 1 is for the yediyah, the way it affects the man, the boil. So that covers all 6 sources. For Rabbi who did not focus on the vavs, so all he has is 3 times a vav. We have 3 psukim. Again, for Yediyah, Tzava, and Asiyah. Chad le'Tzava, v'chad le'Asiyah, v'chad le'Yediyah. Okay? So we know that it works this way. Hashem is activating it, and Hashem is promising that in fact it's going to work if we carry it out properly. So she'll feel the effects of the water. But we don't yet have any raya that the boil is affected, because all the psukim have been used up for her. But Rabbi, so the question is, according to Rabbi, how does Rabbi know this idea that the water has a double effect on her and him? Nafkalei. He learns it from the other brayso, Midasanya. Pasuk says, how is the water going to work? Latzbois beten, v'lan pil yarech. Pasuk chav beis. So the stomach bloats and explodes, and then the yerech beneath it. What is that going on? Who is suffering through this? Bitna v'yerecha shel boil. It's a reference to the boil's experience. So we see that he's also included in the process. You're suggesting that in fact the boil is the one that being described here. Maybe it's referring to the nevelas, the isha, who says to include the boil in this system. When the pasuk says a different pasuk, her stomach, her yerech will be affected. So here we have a clear reference to her consequence. Why the repetition? Why do we have to have the other pasuk? Omani mekayim latzbois beten velan pel yarech. Why do we have the other pasuk? Bitna v'yerecha shel boil. Oh, it's going on the boil. So everybody's covered. And Tosfos points out that once we include the boil, apparently, we apply everything to him as well. All ideas, the idea, the tzava, and the asiyah. V'idach, what does Rabbi Akiva do with this extra pasuk? Latzbois beten velan pel yarech. Hahu demoida la kohen. That pasuk is telling you that we have to inform her and everybody else how it works. The beten bereish, v'ada yarech. That first her stomach will suffer, and then the yarech. In reverse of the way the avera was actually committed. That people should be aware of how it's going to happen, and not negate and not question the mayim amarim. Okay, so that's the point of this pasuk, to tell us that we have to inform everybody. V'idach, well, what does Rebbe say? How does he respond? Imkain, if it's only coming to teach us that, the pasuk would say bitna v'yerecha, her beten, her yerech, my beten v'yerech. Why say it in a non-gender form? Betan v'yarech. Shmamna l'boil. Apparently, it's a reference to his part of the deal. Ve'makuli lachid says maybe it's only coming as a reference to him, right? So that he suffers. But who's to say that we have to go inform everybody of the order of events? Imkain, because if it's only for that, lichtay bit navi reicha, would say it in lashon zachar. He will suffer. Why does it say it in a generic fashion? My betan v'yarich. Shmam notarti. Apparently, it's coming to teach us both things. That we have to inform of the way it works, and just as she goes through this oynish, the boil as well. Okay, so bottom line is, it would have seemed like there's really no machlekes lamaisa. Both Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi, at the end of the day, hold that the maim is by the kur and by the kim, and we have all the ideas of yediyah, tzavah, and asiyah pertaining to both. It's just a question of where to learn it from. And Rabbi Kiva focuses on the vavs, and therefore he has a lot to go around to cover all these concepts. Here comes another sugya with a reference to Rabbi Akiva and his drasha on the vavs. You know, there's a Gemara in Menachos that Rabbi Akiva was known to be doirish, every little nuance of the Torah. I'll call tag v'tag, doirish tile tilim shel halachos. Every vav, every has meaning, has a lesson. Okay, so let's move on to the next part of the Mishnah. Regarding Isser, until she verifies her status, she's Usser. To who? To her husband. To the Boil, in case she has divorced, she can't marry the Boil until she verifies her status. We have a brayse as follows. In Parsha SOTAH, we find the word Nitma mentioned 3 times. Im Nitma, Nitma, Vinitma. Lama, why do we need 3? 3 different aspects of Isra. Echad lebal, v'echad lebayil, right? V'echad letruma, right? Rashi says even if she's from a Kohen family, at this point, no truma. Even if she's from a Kohen family, married to a Kohen, there's no truma at this point until she verifies her status. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. So according to Rabbi Akiva, 3 psukim, Baal, Bayil, and Truma. 3 Yisrael. Rabbi Shmuel. Says Rabbi Shmuel to Rabbi Akiva, why do you need a pasuk to tell us that this SOTAH may not go ahead now, at this early stage, before verification, and marry a Kohen? Let's stop for a second. Where did Rabbi Akiva even mention Kohen? Why is Rabbi Shmuel responding to Kahuna? The Gemara will deal with that later. But apparently Rabbi Akiva did somehow allude to the fact that we have a source that the SOTAH cannot go and marry a Kohen. And Rabbi Shmuel says, we don't need a pasuk for that. Kal v'chomer, we can derive it by way of a simple kal v'chomer, that in fact the SOTAH cannot go ahead and marry a Kohen. Uma grusha, even a divorcee who did nothing wrong, shemateres latruma, right? She can go back home and eat her father's truma. Asur lakuna, we know a grusha may not marry a Kohen. So, despite yes truma, no kahuna, Zush asura betruma, a SOTAH who is forbidden from truma, as we just learned. Certainly, of course, Eina Din, doesn't it lend to reason shasur lakuna, she can't go marry a Kohen? So we don't really need a pasuk for that. It's learned by a kavachem. Okay, now the brayse continues. Back on track. We're going to focus on other psukim now. We're going to get back to this discussion about kahuna a bit later. If we take a look at the psukim, we find an interesting, presentation. The pasuk says, well, she became tummy, she did not become tummy. What does the pasuk mean? It sounds like we're speaking about facts. First we say, well, maybe she is tummy. And then we say, she's not tummy. Well, im nitma, if you know for a fact that she's guilty, why are you bothering administering the drink? If you know she's tummy, there's no need to verify. If you know she's pure and innocent, why are you even bothering? Why are you going through the process of giving her to drink? Apparently, it's not a fact. We don't know what happened. It's a suffix. The pasuk here is teaching us Shah suffix asura. Maybe she did something wrong. Maybe she didn't. And despite the fact that it's only a suffix, it's an uncertainty. She is asur because that is the chiddush of Parsha SOTAH. An isha who goes through kinoi and stira, she becomes asur until she drinks, even though it's only a suffix tumah. and this is the one of the well-known Gemaras in Shas, Mekanata Don L'Sheretz. This provides a source for every type of tumah in the world. Sheretz, a dead creature, which is metame, and there's a suffix of whether a person, involved himself with that sheretz. A suffix tumah in the rishus hayachin, a private domain, is tummy. How do we know this? From SOTAH, where there's a suffix of chet, which we call tumah. Uma SOTAH. We even have a kavachimer. Look. Uma SOTAH. Shaloi asa b'shagi kimezit. Look, a SOTAH who errs. She mistakenly got involved with a man thinking it's her husband. We don't hold it against her. Voinus karatzin, if it was a forced interaction, we don't hold it against her. We don't treat it like a rutzin, like a willing interaction. So despite the fact that she has those leniencies, still, when it comes to the basic question, asaba safek evadai, Torah treats a safek like a vadai. An ordinary saita who went through kini v'stira is presumed to be guilty until innocent, until proven innocent. Of course, a sheretz, which doesn't have those discounts that saita has. Right? You interact with a sheretz by mistake, you just as tummy as a willful interaction. Voinus karatzin, we treat an accident like a ratzin. So it doesn't have those leniencies, of course. We treat a suffix touching a sheretz like a vadai, and you're tummy. Now, since SOTAH is providing our source, we have to go back and look closely at SOTAH and make sure that you're going to apply it in the same way, meaning it has to have the same, the suffix tumah of the sheretz, which is tummy, has to conform, has to have the same criteria as the SOTAH. Let's go back to the source. Ma SOTAH rishus hayachid, just like the iser suffix tumah by SOTAH transpired in a private domain, that's the mokum of stira, of seclusion. Av sheretz rishus hayachid, likewise, suffix tumah is tummy only in rishus hayachid. Number 2, Ma SOTAH, just as SOTAH involves people, davar sheyesh by da'as lishoyel, right? The isha who perhaps had that tumah experience has das, has intelligence, and theoretically you can ask her. She can be queried about the episode. Of course, we don't actually ask her and query her, but it's a concept. It involved an intellectual being, and therefore we say when it's a suffix, it's tummy. Av sheretz, likewise. If you want to compare it to the classic suffix tumah rishus hayachid, it needs to be involving something and somebody that has das lishoyel. Davar sheyesh by das lishoyel, meaning a person, right, who has das lishoyel, who may have touched the sheretz, suffix tummy. A person holding taharis like a kli and may have touched the sheretz while he was handling the kli, that is called davar sheyesh by das lishoyel, because the person was involved. Well, let's say you find the sheretz near a kli. Nobody was there. That's not called davar sheyesh by das lishoyel. There was no intelligent being involved. Over there, we don't apply the idea of suffix tummy. Umikan Amr, based on this, we say davar sheyesh b'das lishoyel. There's an intelligent being involved in the episode. B'rishus hayachid, and it took place in a private domain. Even though it's a suffix tumah, sveikai is treated as tummy. But if it's b'rishus harab, out in the open, we fall back on the standard cheskas kashrus, and we say sveikai is really tar. That's number 1. V'she'em b'das lishoyel. If it involves something which is non-intelligent, has no das lishoyel, then bein rishus hayachid, bein rishus harab, misfeiko Torah, whether it took place in the street, in the house, it's always tar. Okay, let's go back to that price. 3 times v'nitma, right? Im nitma, nitma, v'nitma. Says Rabbi Kiva, 1, she's usher to her husband until she drinks. 1 to the boil, and 1 for truma. Okay, baal, boil, and truma. Rabbi Shmuel said something about kahuna. Why do we need a pasuk for Isser kahuna? Where was Rabbi Kiva speaking about that? But Rabbi Shmuel, we don't understand what was he responding to. Amar Rabbi Kiva truma. Rabbi Kiva mentioned Isser truma. Or mahada le'iu kahuna, and he's responding to kahuna. That's 1. Number 2, kasha is v'su. In addition, Rabbi Kiva kahuna manole. Well, truthfully speaking, how does Rabbi Kiva know that his site is also to marry a kohen? He had no pasuk, and apparently he wasn't working with the Kal V'Chomer. That's a Rishmal's. V'chitema, perhaps we'll say kahuna leitzricha kro. We don't need a pasuk. That is, SOTAH, can't go marry a kohen. Why? Look, shari asaba suffix zoina, kizoina. Look, she can't even go back to her husband at this early point until she drinks. The Torah considers a suffix zoina like a real zoina, gave her a status of a real zoina pending, further verification. And therefore, that would also generate an Isser to marry a Kohen, who not allowed to marry a Zayna, right? So for the same reason that should Isser to the Baal should be Isser to the Kohen. Is that why Rabbi Akiva did not require a new pasuk for Kahuna? Is that why? Well then, Truma Namilo to Baikrod. Why does Rabbi Akiva need a pasuk that she can't eat Truma? If she's treated like a Zayna at this point. Shari Asak Suffolk Zayna Kazayna. So what's going on here? Either we need a pasuk for both or for none. You're right. We need a pasuk for everything. We have 4 psukim. Remember, according to Rabbi Akiva, we focus on the vavs as well. And it says nitma, nitma, and then it says vinitma. That can be split into 2, right? Nitma and the vav. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 psukim. Arba kroiksivi, chad labal, 1 for the Isser Baal. V'chad l'boil, 1, she can't go marry the boil. V'chad l'kahuna, there you go. She cannot marry a kohen if her husband, let's say, passes away right now. V'chad l'truma, she can't have truma until she drinks. So 4 psukim. Baal, boil, kahuna, and truma. But Rabbi Shmuel responds, we're not going to focus on the vavs. And therefore we only have 3 psukim. Tlosa kroik sivi. Right? We have nitma, nitma, and vinitma. 3 psukim. Chad l'baal, v'chad l'boil, v'chad l'truma. 1 for the Isser Baal, 1 for the Isser Boil, 1 for truma. Hey, what about kahuna? Oh, that's a kavachaymer. That's exactly what Rishma was telling Rabbi Akiva. You need an extra pasuk for kahuna? No, kahuna asi b'kavachaymer. We have the kavachaymer. You don't need a pasuk. So now it turns out that Truma is really a greater chiddush than kahuna, right? Let's analyze Rabbi Shmuel's kavachaymer. He says, look, a grusha, an isha who was married to somebody, divorced now, she can have truma. It still cannot marry a kohen. Of course, the SOTAH who cannot have truma can't marry a kohen. So grusha can have truma, but not marry a kohen. So it's easier to be usher to a kohen than to be usher in truma, right? Meaning, to suggest that an isha is usher in achilas truma is a greater chiddush, a greater stringency. It takes more to do that than to make her usher l'kahuna, because we see that a grusha is usher l'kahuna, but can still have truma. So that brings us to the next question. What Rabbi Shmuel? Let's focus on Rabbi Shmuel now, who has 3 psukim: Baal, Boil, and Truma. How do we know that pasuk number 3 is referring to Truma, which is a big chiddush? Maybe it's only referring to kahuna, but she's still mutter and Truma. Talking about a SOTAH. Mimai the Isra Krol Truma. How do we know that pasuk number 3 is telling you Isra Truma? V'kahuna asib b'kavachaymer. Now we know kahuna by default because of the kavachaymer. Well, if you usher to Truma, of course you usher in kahuna, right? How do you know? Not so fast. Dilma ki Isra l'kahuna. Maybe pasuk number 3 is not on Truma, which is a big chiddush. Maybe it's merely telling you that a SOTAH can't marry a kohen. A lesser chiddush. Or truma shaya, and you're right. Truma she can have. Who says we can go so grand and broad? Apply pasuk number 3 to truma, and kahuna is learned by kavachaymer. Perhaps no. Pasuk number 3 is on kahuna, and she can have truma. Amalach. Rabbi Shmuel will respond. You know how I know? Mistavra, it is probable. It is a svara dumya de baal boil. Pasuk number 1 was for Isser Baal, right? Her husband was alive. She can't go back to him. Uboil was pasuk number 2, right? Husband divorces her. She can't go marry the boil. We're speaking while she's still a SOTAH before she drinks. So pasuk number 1, number 2 are referring to Baal and boil. Let's assume that pasuk number 3, which adds another aspect of Isser, matches to a certain extent the first 2 Isser. Dumya de Baal boil. We assume Isser number 3, presented by pasuk number 3, parallels, matches to a certain extent the first 2 Isur. Dumi the Baal Boil. Ma Baal Boil Mechaim, just as Isur for Baal and Boil is speaking during their lifetime. Otherwise it wouldn't be an issue. I mean, she can't go back to her living husband. She can't go marry the Boil while he's alive, right? Av Trumanami Mechaim. We assume now that pasuk number 3 is also speaking about something that is applicable during her husband's lifetime. It can't be speaking about kahuna. The only way she can marry a kohen is if her husband passes away and she's an almana. If he divorces her, she can't marry a kohen either way. She's a grusha. So we're assuming that the Isser in pasuk number 3 pertains to something during her husband's lifetime. That cannot be a reference to kahuna. Apparently it's a reference to eating truma, which can be pertinent during her husband's lifetime. It's opposed to kahuna, which can theoretically only work after his passing. Therefore, says Rabbi Shmuel, we have 3 psukim. One is for Isser Baal, one for Boil, one for Truma. Now that we know Truma, we learn kahuna from a Kavachim. Rabbi Akiva, let's go back to Rabbi Akiva. He needed 4 sources, 4 psukim. Baal, Boil, kahuna, and Truma. Why? Why couldn't he just go with Rabbi Shmuel's approach? Why did he need 4 psukim? Right? It could have been Baal, Boil, and the third one we're assuming is similar to Baal or Boil, Mechaim, which is Truma. And Kuna through a Kavachayma. Why was Rabbi Akiva insisting on 4 psukim? Rabbi Akiva Dumi the Baal or Boil Leslie. He doesn't hold to this idea that we're comparing this Isser to that. Each one is an independent Isser. So, yeah, pasuk number 1 is Baal, pasuk number 2 is Boil, pasuk number 3 could be Kahuna. Even though it's not really in the same category as Baal or Boil. Kahuna is only pertaining after her husband's passing. And if that's the case, we don't yet know Truma, because Truma is a big chiddush, we said before. And that's why we need 4 psukim. Baal, Boil, Kahuna, and Truma. V'inam Isla, and even if he holds of this idea that we compare the Isurim, in which case logic says it's Baal, Boil, and Truma, because that's during their lifetime, and Kahuna can be learned through Kavachaymer. Even if that's the case, says the Gemara, another option is, even if he holds of that parallel connection, so then the question is, why do we need 4 psukim? Once we have Baal, Boil, and Truma, we know Kahuna from Kavachaymer, you're right. Milsa the Asib Kavachaymer, sometimes, even something that can be derived through Kavachaymer, an indirect way. Torah, because of the Torah, troubles us, to write it out clearly so we know it clear without any questions. Okay. So bottom line is, once again, we don't seem to have a real machlekes in halacha. All agree that there are 4 isurim by SOTAH. Until she drinks, she's usher to the Baal, to the Boil, to Truma, and to Kahuna. It's just a question of where to learn the drasha from. And Rekiva is l'shitasai. He focuses on the vavs, which is similar to Rekiva before. We discussed the other concept that the bayim affects the isha and affects the boyel as well. And according to Rekiva, it was based on the fact that we have all those psukim. We have uvo 3 times, 3 ideas: yediyah, tzavo, and asiyah, and it doubles into 6 because of the vavs. So we have 3 for the isha and 3 for the boil. All the best to you. Atzlacha Rabba and B'suris Teves.